Welcome to In Moderation,
the show where we give you a moderate dose of info, sarcasm, and we already know we're not approved.
Welcome back to In Moderation. We're here without Liam because Liam is busy doing adult things right now. He's actually going to be looking into moving, so he's looking at houses and stuff. So he's kind of busy for a week.
Wow.
So I hate him. But
Can't
that's okay.
relate to adult things.
That's okay. I've replaced him with our favorite people that happen to be available today. Welcome in Dr. Mike and Susanna.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me again. It's been a while since I have time to do any of this.
Well, since it's been a while, why don't you introduce yourself first?
So I'm the only chiropractor the group trusts. So I think that's a pretty big achievement. A pretty good title that I'll put up there. But no, I'm a chiropractor in Tampa, Florida, and I love nutrition so much that I decided to pursue it as a master's program. So soon I'll be graduating in August and then taking the dietitian license. So that's going to be fun. So yeah, I'm the only one of the few chiropractors in the world that likes to just keep going. But there's a lot of us. They're just hidden, I promise.
They're the ones that avoid social media.
I think, yeah, there's very few that kind of do social media, but even I don't have time to sit down and post, which I should.
Well, that's because you're too busy playing Clear Obscure Expedition 33.
I have 80-something hours on it, so let's calm down. Too much.
I mean, game of the year, right?
Listen, I'm not a huge fan of single players for a very long time. And my cousin was bugging me to play, hey, you're going to like it. It has that dark fantasy feel. And I just decided to play on a Monday, which I don't work on Mondays. And I woke up at 10. I turned off the computer at 10 p.m. I was 12 hours in one day. So I think it's game of the year. I've done that in years.
It's a pretty amazing game. And how about you, Susanna?
Yes, I'm Susanna. I'm a dietitian. I currently work in an outpatient setting in pediatrics and then in a genetics clinic, also outpatient, and do a lot of stuff on social media. I never was able to niche down, so I just post about what I want to post about, which hasn't worked in a growth way, but it makes me at least want to continue. So
if it makes you happy, that's what matters.
Yeah.
Particularly on social media, where when you do start to niche down and you force yourself to start doing these specific things, it's just do I have to do this again?
Yeah. I don't know. I was cringing at the area I was sort of going into. It's I don't know. It was, you start following other people who are doing the same thing and you're I don't like this atmosphere. So now I just do what I want.
Yeah. I know with my content, I've had a lot of people, they're oh, I preferred when you did it in this format, or I preferred that format. And I'm look, if I did the same thing over and over and over again, I would have stopped posting by now. That's dull. It's not fun for me. You might like it. That's fine. But I also have to think about me and my mental health.
Hell yeah.
Just being on social media at all is a roller coaster.
Oh,
God, yeah.
Especially if you open the comment section, you get even more depressed.
Okay, what's the worst comment you guys have gotten?
Oh boy.
I think the most common one is, you're not a real doctor. I think that's the most common one. And I get it, I'm not trying to portray a medical doctor.
Right.
But I did a lot of time, and I think
I did a lot of time.
In the
working the chain gang.
I'm never going to compare my doctorate ever to medical. Medical school is crazy. And I have a lot of good colleagues and friends who are chiropractors. They chiropractic for about 5-6 years. And they're F this, I'm just going to go to medical school. And they've done they completed the first year. And it's I completed the 3-4 years of chiropractic school in 1 year of medical school. So it's very intense. But I think a lot of people misuse the word doctor, which essentially just means highest level of education per se, and I think I get that a lot. At first, it would bug me because, like, I promise I'm trying to help people. I'm not a quack. But nowadays, it's just like, okay, I see it with like, some medical doctors. Like, I've seen comments like that on the other Dr. Mike. Oh, you're not a real doctor, you're pushing pills. I'm like, okay, dude, like, cool. So people are just trolling. I think that's the most common one I get.
Yeah, a lot of
Well,
people think that doctor's synonymous with their general practitioner or surgeon.
but they don't even like real doctors anymore. People don't even like like it's like
Ah,
no matter what credential you have, you're doing it wrong. So,
you know
Yeah,
what I tell people? I tell people, they're specialists in an area. You're not gonna call your plumber to do your electric stuff, and you're not gonna call a mechanical engineer to do what a chemical engineer is gonna do. They're both engineers, and they'll have an idea of what they do, but they're not gonna be, specialists in that area. Most of
yeah,
the times, I get blocked after that, but it's okay.
I will say I have like I used to be like really intense, but like dietitians are the nutrition experts and like no one else can talk. And then actually I think it was sort of probably Rob and Liam where like you would cover nutrition content better than like the dietitians I would follow. And I'd be like, you know what? And I know Liam's, working towards,
yeah,
he's getting a master's and stuff. But I was like, it's not so much about the actual credential, it's just about respecting like your limitations and
100% agree. Because
yeah.
I'm almost done with mine, and I still think I don't know anything.
yeah.
I don't know if that's how you felt with yours, but it's
Yes.
it's like I'm almost done, and I'm like, yeah, let me do a little bit of research because I really don't know about this one. So
I like to say you're learning how to find information and you're learning what you don't know so that you go in with the appropriate amount of fear.
I think that's a really good way to put it, especially because people are getting very smart, sometimes dumb smart, but people are truly getting
Dumb smart.
yeah, like people are like elbow pain. I think I have cancer. I'm like, I don't think you should be googling that. But I do get the occasional patient that will like challenge me, and I'm like, damn, that's a I don't know that question. I'm like, but that also proves that you're human, and I think that for me has bring a lot of respect. Sometimes I even pull like one of my books from the shelf, like, hey, let's see what the book says real quick. And for them, that's like, oh, that's really like reassuring that you like we want to be specific. That's what I've
That's
seen personally.
that's the difference between the good people on social media and the grifters is the capacity to say you don't know, the capacity to go out and learn, the capacity to keep learning, admit you're wrong, all those things.
The most like ridiculous situation where I was like, maybe you're right. I need to like look into what you're saying with a patient. They were drinking a lot of like soda, but they were reassuring me. They're like, we get clear soda, we don't get brown soda. And I was like, oh, is that for like caffeine reasons? And they were like, no, it's because there's less sugar in the clear soda. And I kind of like for a second I believed them. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So I was like, okay, well, keep doing that. And then I like went and looked it up and I was like, oh, that's completely inaccurate. But they got me for a bit.
I've had some weird stuff, yeah, but sometimes I have to remind myself that I need to control sometimes what I want to say and be professional. Um, because I don't know the person, but with like the occasional patient who is like becomes a friend over time, been with me for 3 years already. Those people I can be like very straightforward, and be very honest, and that's cool. But sometimes I get like the new patient, and I'm like, what are you talking about? How do I approach this situation without sounding I guess smart, because sometimes it is difficult. Sometimes people are very, very like into like this is the only way. I really don't care what you think. I'm like, then why are you here?
That's a big problem on social media is they push that certain things are the only way to do something.
Oh,
And everything
100%.
Yeah.
is a tool in a toolbox.
Oh, 100%. I had this consult, a virtual consult with this patient, and she was coming in for some back pain, and but in the console, she mentioned some stuff about like fatigue and stuff. Like, hey, I'm gonna send you a nutritional intake. You just finish it up just to see if there's something. And in the area that says, "What are you for cooking?" and she put no seed oils in caps lock. This is cancerous, and I'm like, oh my god, how do I approach this? Right, like, because after that, everything else in the intake made a lot of sense. So it's more, and I don't know if this is the same thing with you, Susanna, but sometimes it feels like we're doing more psychological counseling than anything else.
Just picking and choosing battles, I feel like. I feel like I see stuff about seed oil so much more on social media than I do in real life. And it might have to do with like the socioeconomic status of the people that I end up seeing.
Mm,
But it's less of an
Mm.
issue
good
in
point.
clinic, I've noticed. I don't know. And it seems like everyone cares about it on social media. So I'm always surprised that people aren't talking about it.
Hmm.
Right.
I don't know. I, I, I haven't seen a lot. I've had genuinely questions about like patients, like, hey, what do you think about seed oils, or what do you think about X, Y, Z? And I've had people who think a certain way, and then I just ask them, why do you think that? And occasionally, oh, I heard it from the internet. It's like, who was the person? So this whatever, and it's like, okay, did they explain what happens? And then I kind of try to put the ball in the court all their time until they themselves go, I really don't know, and that gives me that opening, like, okay, so let's really look what's going on. Let's look the research. And sometimes I have like easy, RCTs I have in bookmarking and just go through them like, hey, this is how it works, so they can have an idea. I'm not trying to make them into a dissertation, but at least have them be like, hey, and especially with rat studies, most of the times it's rat studies. I'm like, hey, try to put the dosage from the rat study into yourself. You're probably going to pee it out, poop it out, sweat it out real quick.
Or
I found
overdose.
my
Or all of
favorite
those.
resource. I don't know if you guys have been on Sarah Ballantyne's website. She has just like a vegetable oil. She has everything. Every like question people ask, she has an answer to it, and then she has references. So I love that. I feel like that's the best compilation of seed oil information I've found.
Damn, I should put that
She's,
on
I'm gonna
my
have to
on
look
my
at that. Yeah.
website. I should put that
yeah.
on like a FAQ, but having
I
like
also
myths. That would be cool.
and it's interesting because she has a background of like she was the paleo mom. So I
Yeah.
feel like if the former paleo mom tells you you can have seed oils, you can believe it, right? Like she's clearly been skeptical of things like that.
Yeah. And it's
So I,
interesting that there's that internet kerfuffle of somebody coming after her because she had a history of being the paleo mom. Since you were the paleo mom, you can't get dietary advice. No, that just means she learned.
I found it very reassuring. Like, yeah, I mean, she's admitting her mistakes. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that that was
In
a
fact, a
positive
lot
thing.
of the dietitians and stuff, they will have something that they were like, yeah, I used to believe this. Now I don't.
Yeah, I think that's what we talked about on the last episode I was on was just like I believed a lot of things. Fortunately, I was not on social media, so there's no record of that. But
Well, that's that. Now you say that, that is pretty true, because my one of my favorite professors for the master's program, he's like 72, and he's still teaching because he loves it. And he's been through like the whole changes throughout nutrition, because he's been practicing nutrition for like 50 years. So, and he goes like, I remember when I was giving a talk about like, oh, don't eat this type of fat because it's gonna kill you, and then 10 years later he's like doing another conference like, sorry about that, I was wrong. You can have it. So he would be like, having those like, oh, don't eat artificial sweetener. It's gonna keep you that. And then another conference like, remember that conference I did 5 years ago? Yep, incorrect. So that was pretty fun to see, like that transition of like how it has evolved in the past 50 years, and being human to understand when you're wrong. Because I think that's the biggest part, that people can see that, oh, I was wrong. And I think a lot of people don't do that, especially, although health gurus. And oh my god, I don't know if you guys saw on the Discord that I showed a picture of like random certification pathways that I get in my Facebook, like a certified juicer.
Yes, I saw that one. Oh my
What?
gosh.
Certified juicer.
Because I'm always looking to like new stuff. Like, oh, in the meantime, I'll do like a random certification, but I have to see if it's worth it. And then I get that, and I'm like, what? I've seen so many like that I'm like, okay.
I
I
showed
feel
it
like
to
I
my
kind of want to
husband
do them
because
all and just be like, hey, yeah, I'm a certified juicer. I'm a certified nut opener. I'm a certified.
And
I don't know what else there'd be.
it's a whole it's like a month program of like being a certified juice. I'm like, wow, okay.
You learned how to juice a fruit. Congratulations.
Wow. I am impressed, especially with so many of the health coach stuff. I think that's everyone's a coach. Everyone
Oh
does.
yeah.
Everyone's a coach. Everyone does something.
There's a big market of coaches teaching coaches or coaches coaching coaches.
Oh, that sounds like an inception right
I've
there.
noticed that.
Yeah.
In
And
coaches,
like
It's
coaches.
courses for like dietitians, or like I'm sure they're in other fields, but I always find people like trying to coach dietitians about how to sell things, sell their own coaching programs.
Oh,
I don't know. It's like,
yeah.
oh yeah. Same in Cairo. In Cairo world, oh my god, all the time I hear because the only way you see a very successful chiropractor is I'm bashing on my profession, but it's okay. Um, it's because they oversell like and lie a lot of scam.
Yeah.
And I see it a lot with, oh, you have toe pain. We're gonna do 6 months of treatment 3 times a week. Why? What's going on with my toe? And then they will use like very biased, non research backed instruments, I would say, that will like tell you about like inflammation or tell you about it's like a cult in my profession. And really, really pisses me off because you would think that something that has been debunked for 50, 60 years, it's still practiced. Like you still see new like chiros like coming out with this like philosophy of like, well, you're broken, you need to not do that. I'm like, hello, what do you mean? What's
You need to not do that. And you need to come see me multiple times a week in order to not do that.
oh yeah.
my one of my best friends, her mom has a little toy fox terrier that goes to see her chiropractor. I think weekly. Um, and I will say it's a very old toy fox terrier, so maybe it's benefited it. Have you ever seen a pet?
Yes,
You have.
I've seen, and I mean, one of the there was a time that I said I want to do more with my scope, and do as much as I can with my scope, and that was one of the things I looked into because it became so like mainstream in social media, like adjusting dogs and cats, and I know there's a school in Texas that does like the whole pathway, but you have to in some states you have to have either in the office a vet to like have like supervision, or you need to have a vet in a very close proximity. uh, I don't know how it really works. I can tell you right now it works the same way as humans. The adjustment or the pop or the crack or whatever you want to call it, essentially what it does according to the data is when you hear the crack, you have a rush of endorphins into the area, which is pain hormones, and that calms the pain a little bit. And since it calms the pain, increases range of motion. So, but it's temporary. That's the whole thing where you have to come 3 times a week because it's temporary, and that's what pisses me off. Because you can ethically keep a patient for a long time by doing a proper plan, exercise, rehab, nutrition, and they'll be happy. They'll gladly stay with you forever if you're helping them with their goals and not just selling them a year plan of getting a backpack forever. Which, if you put it into perspective, you also don't want to have excess range of motion with no strengthening. I
Yeah,
don't know,
the
but
whole important thing there is following up the crack with some rehab.
exactly. And there's people I don't even crack, which is weird for me to say, but there's people I don't even adjust, and they're okay. Shocker.
What
Sometimes
do
you
you
just need a little
do?
exercise.
You
Oh, I'm sorry, Susanna.
If you don't like do an adjustment, then what do you do?
That's a really great question, because I get it all the time. Um, it really depends on the person's goals. So I always tell them it's not what I want, it's what you want, and it's your goal. So, for example, if the person is an athlete, like I work with CrossFitters a lot. So with them, I do adjust them pretty much every visit just because it just helps them be a little bit looser for like the workout and everything, and just do some stability training, making sure their snatches are correct, they're making sure their form's good. So it's more like coaching, but not like the ones we see in Instagram and TikTok. So it depends on their goal, but sometimes I can get away with not having to adjust and getting to the same goal. So if someone has hypertension, for example, I'm not adjusting their neck ever, because
Right.
it's small, but it's higher than the normal person for a stroke. And there's a lot of things I can do that can get to the point of getting them better. Like I can release endorphins by doing any type of modality that helps with pain. That's the misconception you see with chiropractic. Oh, your neck is out of alignment. No. If your neck was out of alignment and it was that fragile, football players will die in the spot whenever they get tackled. So no, not how it works. It is a lot of sitting down with them at first, and educating them like, hey, like I'll adjust you if it's needed, but I will also do cupping or manual therapy or exercise or acupuncture or drying. It all depends on what you need on that day. And having them present when I build the plan with them. I don't like to have I was coached. I hate that word now. I was with another provider that I used to work at. I was, kind of coached into like having a pre-made plan with like 6 months of treatment, which is not ethical. And I switched that when I opened my practice, and I sit down with them and do the plan. Like, okay, what's your goal? What do you want to get out of me? How fast do you want to get to your goal? And then I'm like, okay, we'll do 10 sessions, and we'll do, the first five we'll do an hour so we can do 30 minutes of rehab, and then the other five we'll do, whatever we need. So I think that for me has helped having a different perspective in what chiropractic can do, because I can get them, they're really comfortable and they're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to get cracked and go home. I know that's a very extensive answer, but I hope that answered your question.
No, yeah, that's helpful. I guess I've actually never seen a chiropractor, so I don't know like the flow of things, but
If you're not having any immediate issues or no like rehab goals, then you're okay.
yeah, I have yet to have a knock on wood, any kind of like, I don't know, issues like that.
Well, if you ever need to, just shoot me a message in
I
Discord.
will. I'll
I tell
trust.
everyone, please just send me a text and I'll find you someone that it's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't go to Wellness Way. For
Sugars are
anybody
bad.
listening that doesn't know who Wellness Way are, they're basically the scumbags of chiropractic.
I've seen worse.
Oh,
Yeah, they're just not social media ish.
uh,
Yeah, I,
gotcha.
yeah. I've seen some local people that I'm like, it's questionable, but you know, I had this conversation with a friend of mine, who's a chiropractor, sports chiropractor. He's like, well, technically they're not really hurting anyone, so that's why we can't really do anything about it, because they're not killing anyone. We can be scamming people of their money, but technically they were volunteered to go there. So there's like, well, that's really true. Like, there's really nothing we can do.
When
It's
someone
kind of
has
like,
like a
oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just thinking when someone has like a stroke from that rare situation, do chiropractors get sued or are you like pretty safe from?
Oh, that's a great question. It's not as often as social media portrays it. I can tell you that whenever someone generally has a stroke because of an adjustment, there's a lot of variables. Like the patient was not possibly clear with the chiropractor and just saying, hey, I have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, I'm in a statin drug. There's a lot of factors that should be done. There's a bad factor from the physician if your state, you're a physician. Florida, I'm a physician. In other states, you can't call yourself that. Um, they did a good history or they did a good exam. Like there's some basic tests you can do just to check if there could be some occlusions like in the arteries, or a basic X-ray. $35. Check an X-ray. Doesn't hurt. You can see if you have calcifications in the arteries. It's a very very cheap way to save your life and save the patient's life. Um, Most of the times if it happens, some of them get sued, but some of them have such a high coverage in their insurance that they kind of don't get sued.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure the state plays a role. I know, like in Wisconsin, it's a good state to be a doctor. They're like highly protected, but then in other states, I think Illinois, it's less fun.
well, now that you say that, in South Carolina, I learned from when I was doing my dry needling certification. In South Carolina, you don't have to be certified in dry needling to do dry needling. You can just pick a needle and poke people. And
Lovely.
if you check like the amounts of pneumothoraxes that have happened in the state, they're all concentrated in South Carolina because they're like, ah, yeah, I watched it on poked the lung. That is crazy. Like you don't need anything at all to just grab a needle and start poking people.
So it's like the equivalent of the juice class, but with dry needling.
Yeah, like people were just like, yeah, randomly poking people. And that's crazy because in Florida you have to do 2 months of training, but it has to be by a certified like academy that has been doing all the research. And there's other places that you have to do even more time. Like there's states that you have to do 60, 80 hours just to be able to practice. In Florida I only had to do 40, but there's states like South Carolina that you got zero because it's not regulated. So
That's just a little frightening.
it is. So never go to someone that advertises for dry needling in South Carolina. Go to a different state. Drive a little bit. Unless they had
Right.
training. Unless they had training. If they have it in their like bio or about like they're like certified by even if they're not board certified, but they have the same training, just didn't have to take an exam. Then okay, you're safe to an extent.
Now I feel like I've learned so much about how healthcare like varies from state to state. And particularly, there's been a lot of news from Atlanta lately with just reproductive care. And then learning about the newborn screen, because that's like, I work with the newborn screen a lot. Pretty much all the conditions in the genetics clinic that I work with are found on the newborn screen. And like, depending on what state you live in, kids they run different tests, basically. So I don't know, there are pros and cons for wherever you go. I do feel like there are some states that are just like inherently better, though.
They are. They are because there's some states that chiropractors they can't do exercise, which is weird. Like they can't do any like rehab. And there's states like New Mexico that I think they had a shortage of physicians during COVID. I believe this is what happened, and they made a 1 year residency like fast track so that those chiropractors that had like that 1 year residency, which it's qualified by the board, to like low level like medication, like basic antibiotics, basic muscle relaxers, because
Really?
yeah, it's only in New Mexico, but you have to take a 1 year residency, so it's like an add-on. Like, I mean, that's cool because you are getting a residency through like a hospital. So it's not like you're like randomly taking an online course and like, here, take amoxicillin now. You take this. It's not like taking a random. But it was interesting, because if you were looking to get like if you had like a cold, and your PCP was full, you go to your chiropractor. Was able to run the same labs and tests. I mean, I think that's cool, but then that's only in New Mexico because I can run labs here, but then I have to refer for like any medication or hormone replacement, stuff like that.
Right.
So I'm learning we don't want to there are a lot of good chiropractors out there, but it just takes a lot of you have to really find the right one. There's a lot of variability.
I always tell people, if this is gonna sound very bad, but don't just go with like 20 years of clinical experience.
Hmm.
Experience is great. I'm not saying no. But if your 20 years of clinical experience is just adjusting, then I'm sorry, but no. If you have someone that, if you go to their bio and they're like, yeah, like, they did training with, like, if they're selling themselves as a sports chiropractor, what makes them a sports chiropractor? Because there is a trademark for being called a sports chiropractor, and you have to go through the board and take a certain amount of hours to be able to use that title. Like, do they have that only, or do they have like extra training? Have they done like more seminars? Have they done like more? Some of them go and do a master's in sports medicine. Some of them do additional stuff. If it only says the doctorate, I'm not bashing on them, but most of the time they only do adjustments. And nothing wrong with that. But there's a high chance they're going to try to sell you a 6-month package.
Okay.
And maybe some supplements.
And maybe some supplements for your
Yeah.
with no labs. Like, yeah, just take this. I don't know what you have, but make you feel better. It is.
That's what we see a lot with the chiropractors on social media. Is they always package with tons and tons of supplements.
I don't
Well,
have.
that'll be very cool when you are a dietitian. And, that's a good combination because you can actually give nutrition advice. That's like, yeah.
Yeah, I think the cool thing. This is the scary part. In Florida, I can do nutritional consultations with my license, which is scary because then legally you could give nutrition advice with no nutrition background, only what you get in school, which is like 3 classes. Which is, now that I'm finishing the masters, I still don't know anything. I feel I know less now. So, I think the LDN will be more of a visual for people whenever they're like, oh, how do you know about nutrition? What do you know? It's like, oh, I have a license on that. I don't want to smack them on their face, but it does help a little bit with like trust, because it's not like, oh yeah, you're just a chiro. Like, no, like I actually did the training, and that gives a little bit of more trust and recognition. But then again, people sometimes don't really give a shit.
Right.
Like, like, guys, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, okay, I'm
My
sorry.
biggest, one of my pet peeves is people will be like, I think one of the only protected things for dietitians is you can give a meal plan. And I have never in my life given a meal plan. Like, I don't know any dietitians who do give meal plans. So that's not what we want. That's not the protection that,
Right.
Agree.
people are like, oh, well, I don't give meal plans. And it's like, well, okay. That
I, yeah, I think that's one thing I get a lot. It's like, oh, we're gonna do a meal plan. It's like, well, not really. I want to control your calories if you want to lose weight, and I want you to, control your calories and be happy doing it, not be miserable. That's for sure. I think one thing I always tell them is, give me a list of things you hate and things you really love, and that will help me. Like, okay, then if you're okay taking these things out, let's add these things in. Let's give them a guide. You do have to have discipline. Like, you need to have some form of discipline and consistency if you want to see results. But if you're just like, oh, I eat whole foods, okay, cool. I eat healthy, everything's organic, okay, cool. Doesn't mean anything. You're still overeating your calories.
Yep.
That's not how it works.
you might be meeting more of your micronutrient needs, but you will not lose weight.
Oh yeah,
So,
100%. I think that's the biggest thing I've seen with people is that they'll come like, oh, but I eat healthy, I eat so better, like I'm exercising. I was like, well, exercise is 10% of weight loss. The other big percentage comes from what you eat. So we need to know how much you're eating, and sometimes it's, and I don't know if this happened to you, Susanna, but it has happened to me that when I tell them to give me like a, because I sometimes tell like, okay, take me a picture of the stuff you use on a daily basis, or give me a list of the things you use on a daily basis. And sometimes it's just minor stuff like salad dressings. Oof. People would go, it's like, I eat healthy, but they just dump like a cup of a dressing. And that alone, you have 200 calories in that salad, where you could have probably change for something a little bit more lighter, still enjoy the salad, still enjoy the flavor, and still
Yeah.
get your goals. Or, switch your normal soda to a zero, you cut down 150 calories from that, and you still quench your satisfaction. So sometimes it's very tiny things. At least that's what I've seen so far. What about yourself from your personal experience?
Yeah, I think, well, you're definitely right. I think a lot of people don't understand the portions that they're using for things like peanut butter and like oil and dressing. And I personally, like, I don't want people, I've also worked with a lot of people who are too, fixated on that. So it's hard. Like, I don't want people always measuring, but if you can measure a couple times to get a better idea, like, oh, I am having like 6 tablespoons of peanut butter, not two. That's helpful.
Oh my
But then
god.
I also will see patients where you know exactly what the problem is, and it's just like 80 ounces of Mountain Dew and gas station food, and you're like, oh, well,
Sometimes it's
where do
Not
we
to
pretty
go
call
from
them
here?
straightforward.
gamers, but that sounds like a gamer.
Probably.
Hey, not to be sponsored, but hope I get a sponsorship. I don't know, you know. Um, but I think, and honestly, I think the cool thing is the same journey that I'm embarking with my patients. I'm embarking it on myself. So a lot of the things I'm doing it myself, so I can understand their struggles, because I never measured, never did anything like that. So now that I'm losing weight as well, my fiance is losing weight as well. We're like, damn, we were overeating crap before, like healthy things, like when we were like doing like French fries or like sweet potato fries, and we never read the package. And you see like, oh, 80 grams is 140 calories, and when you throw 80 grams into like the cup, into the measure, it's like 4 French fries. Like, damn, holy crap. Like, yeah, I think it was, when was, I think it was Friday, I was making like oh my god, I made some supreme fries with just like beef, ground beef and stuff, and I was like measuring everything. I was like, damn, this is miserable. Like, I was like easily overeating like this 3 times before. And that's the problem with a lot of people as well. They're like, oh, it's organic, it's healthy, it's whole food, I'll just chug it in, let's do it.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then they end up, gaining weight, obesity, diabetic, heart issues, and
The
then
other thing that perplexes me when I think of salad dressing, we'll have some like kids who are just underweight, trying to prevent malnutrition and coaching parents on how to add calories. And they'll be like, well, they go through like a bottle of ranch dressing every week, and you just can't figure out how you could add more calories. So it's like for some people, it feels like they're eating nothing and they're not losing weight. And then other people, they're eating so much, and you're like,
that's that's a really
it's
good
hard.
point. That is a really hard point. Sometimes I get, I would say it is a little more difficult how to add them when they're like heavily malnourished versus being in a deficit, because the deficit is pretty straightforward. Like, increase protein, increase fiber, and satiety is a little higher. But then when you have to increase it, it's like, how do I do this without causing, discomfort? It,
Yeah.
it can get tricky. I think that's
Yeah.
Usually, when
trickier.
somebody's under eating, there's a reason for that. They
Yeah.
can't eat enough calories comfortably.
And with kids, I don't want to teach them that they need to have like butter and sugar and everything, but also like those are great ways to add calories. So it's a
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah.
I would say, damn, I haven't had anyone that I needed to increase, but I did have someone, still have someone that was under eating, and she didn't notice, and she was not losing weight, but she was eating below her BMR, so her body was not even functioning correctly. It didn't have
Yeah.
enough energy. So once I did, like, this is the first time I did like a template for her. So I said, hey, this is like an idea. This is not for you to follow. This is like roughly. And when she started like counting like calories throughout the day, she was like, "Oh my god, I was under eating about 700 calories." So she ate 700 calories more to be in a deficit according to her, measurements, and now she feels better, starting to lose weight. And it's crazy how sometimes people, heavily undereat, and it becomes like that. I mean, that is a form of eating disorder. Not quite
Mhm.
bulimia or orthorexia, but it is a form. Like it is a rising of a heavy eating disorder if you don't pick it up quick.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for your body to function when you're, 1,200 calories and like you should theoretically be losing weight, but you probably aren't maintaining a lot of lean body mass and you probably feel like crap all the time. So you probably don't want to
All these
move.
people pushing 1,200 calorie diets. Why are we still doing this?
Because no one has
Yeah,
died yet that
I
I
don't
know
think,
of.
yeah, I'm sure there's got to be not from 1,200 calories. I mean, you could.
I mean, I think what pisses me off is there's so much freedom in opinions that hurt people, and there's zero accountability. But then
Right.
me and Susanna do a misstep and we can lose our whole license. We can get fined. We can do jail. Like it can get nasty real quick. And it's very unfair for the
Yeah.
people who like has spent a lot of money, has spent a lot of time to just be able to properly help someone, and then we might do a stumble, ended up hurting the person, not because it was intentional, but it happened, and now everything goes to crap. And then these people are like constantly making a disorder, constantly creating
Like it's
problems.
crazy. Like the amount of times we've called out Bobby for
Everything.
having like different connections to the food, not declaring them, all this stuff, contradictions, everything,
Mm-hmm.
and he has seen no consequence to that. He still has a million whatever followers. He's still making millions of dollars. But you guys are the problems, because when you get
Right.
that one misstep, all of a sudden
Well,
Mm-hmm.
and we're
you're
clearly being
blacklisted.
paid, right?
Yeah,
Like big food and big everything. I wish.
I
Yeah.
that is such a I freaking hate that how we're all paid by big food. Meanwhile, all the grifters are literally being paid by big food.
Yeah. And you asked what comments, what's the worst comment? I feel like those are the most consistent, like
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Hmm.
things where you just,
I've
oh,
Yeah. I think one time it was this guy who was heavily promoting the carnivore diet. And I was like, well, technically, this was invented more like an elimination diet to check for any like triggers, and should be done supervised by a health professional for short term to see what's your gluten sensitivity or whatever's causing your triggers. You're doing it for 5 years, your body's going to start to go into chaos mode. And man, the amount of hate comments I get on just like posts like that, because like, you don't know
Paul
what,
himself,
like,
Paul Saladino himself could
yes,
not do 5 years. Like,
I don't
Yeah, no
know.
kidding.
I don't know. It's like,
I love that freaking Paul Saladino failed Mr. Dr. Carnivore himself failed carnivore diet, and people are still using him as a figurehead of the carnivore
mhm.
movement.
And again, no consequences there. Like, which I
Yeah.
want to respect the fact that he admitted that there was a problem, but also it's not the same as like what
But
Sarah did.
and
It's a
it's like,
very
okay,
different.
he admitted there's a problem, yet he knew there was a problem, and he was selling his book while he knew there was a problem.
Right, right.
well, did you saw that video that he posted, like the animal based pasta, and it was just fucking, it was just squashed, like it was
Squash,
spaghetti
Yeah.
yeah,
squash.
yeah.
I'm like, what about this is animal based? Like I'm trying to understand. I don't think you were like hunting the squash and you like kill it. Like I don't think
I don't know.
that.
I think Paul was probably out there with his spear hunting that squash.
Every time that video comes up from someone reacting, I'm like, I just don't get it. Like how? And the thing is, people still believe it.
And the
That's the sad part.
bringing the coconut on a plane. Did you see that one?
Oh my god, that
You
one.
think that these things are satire because
No, they're
it's not possible.
genuinely happening.
But
Yeah.
actually, the recommendation to bring a coconut on an airplane.
And then I don't know who did a reaction to it. I don't remember who was. Said, okay, how are you gonna open it? Like you have to have something hard. Like what are you
He
bashing it
answered
with?
it though.
He
He
did?
answered that, yes. And I was it just like a metal straw or something? I don't know. Which makes me feel like those shouldn't be allowed through TSA anymore.
Right? Apparently, he can bring a metal straw that's strong enough to just puncture a coconut, but I can't bring a nail file?
I have to look up what he said to that because he did come up with something.
I think for me the videos that really piss me off the most are the ones that are in grocery stores, but not the ones like they're like, half naked, just randomly shot him, but the ones that go directly to like random people and just start like bashing through like their food selection. Like
Oh, yeah.
there's one way to like be educational and be like, hey, if you need any help, cool. But like one recorded patient, like that person never consented to that. Second, you don't know the socioeconomic status of that person. Three, you don't know what's going on with their life. You don't know if they're, God forbid, they do something to themselves after that. You don't know if they're going through a massive depression. They're very suicidal. There's a lot of things that you need to put into perspective. And I think me being heavy into like mental health, for me, that really pisses me off. Because if someone like goes into my grocery list, like, and sees my Coke Zeros and like, oh, you're gonna die. I'm gonna punch him in the throat. Like, I'm enjoying my Coke Zero, my guy. I'm sorry.
I,
Yeah. And I think like working with a lot of weird medical conditions, you realize that like there's a time and place for almost everything. There are times where I have like told people to eat food I never would have thought I ever would have recommended. So, I mean, for some of our patients, we have like plans in case to keep them out of catabolism. We'll have them mix Gatorade with like sugary powder. Um, it's like pure sugar, just infusing them with like pure sugar. And if someone were to bash the Gatorade that they had, like it's medically necessary. I don't know.
yeah, that's. I was about to say, if we go back to the conversation about how these people, they aren't being held accountable because they aren't making them do anything, they're not prescribing anything. It just, the person is supposedly doing it of their own accord. But if you're convincing these people to not eat things that would otherwise be helpful based on their conditions, maybe they're struggling to get food in, maybe they're poor, and you're convincing them to buy more expensive things, you are significantly lowering their quality of life.
Yeah.
Yep. Which
Uh,
is a form of, I don't know. I can't even think straight now.
I don't know if you guys saw the podcast episode with the another Dr. Mike and Andrea Love and then Ailey Cohen.
Too
It
many Dr.
was
Mikes.
there are too many Dr. Mikes for sure.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only
Um,
Michael though, because I know that. I think that the other one is Mikhail. I think because he's Russian. I think, and the one that's Jack, it's also Russian. So Russian, I think. The PhD one, exercise
I don't even
physiology.
know.
Mike Israetel?
Yes, I don't know if he's Michael. Maybe.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Anyway,
There was a point where she was saying, so she the Ailey Cohen is like a rheumatologist, and she was certainly not like she was a little bit more on the pseudoscience side, but I don't think she realized that. She like was pretty ethical, and I don't know. Anyways, she was saying she didn't recommend a bunch of supplements or testing for like autoimmune disorders. She just recommended that people take the money they would have spent on those supplements and buy organic. And all hell broke loose on the podcast episode. But I was thinking, I was like, well, what would I tell people to spend that money on, like that extra money? And then I was like, most people don't have extra money that they would use to buy organic versus supplements or like the
yeah.
assumption that there is extra money is probably where we're going wrong with all of that.
That's yeah. See, I'm beneficial in that living in Canada thing. I can be like, yeah, go get your lab work done. It's free for us, but that's not something that you guys have.
No.
I mean, I guess insurance might cover it, but that's you're digging into the whole insurance thing down there.
Yeah, it's tricky to get some things covered. Like even like vitamin D, which we're all deficient in, it's hard to get that covered. I don't know.
I usually tell people to, because I can see the cash prices sometimes on labs, and I just tell them because sometimes some insurances will tell you like, oh, that's going to be your end of like your deductible and copay, and sometimes if it's going to be astronomically different than just paying it out of pocket, just pay it out of pocket, because sometimes a CBC it's $4. You know, like sometimes they're pretty cheap, but they don't tell you that. I think that's one thing I always tell people: ask ask your insurance carrier what is the copay and deductible. If it's less than what the cash pay is, go for it. But if it's going to be, you know, $100, $300 more than paying the cash, pay cash. You know, you're still gonna end up paying that amount of money. Why not save yourself $200 and put it to something else? I don't know.
That
That's
is crazy that you can just go get labs though.
Oh yeah,
free.
Unreal.
yeah. It's that's a U.S. problem that needs to be solved. That you guys don't have access to this.
Yeah,
Yep. There's a
that could be like
lot.
a 3-hour podcast episode.
Yeah,
Well, if we want to talk about insurance, the reason why I don't take insurance is because I just got I saw a picture of a colleague of mine that she took insurance. Seems like I'm just not going to take insurance anymore. She got paid. I don't remember the carrier. I'm not going to mention it either way. She got paid 64 cents. She got a check for 64 cents for
Good.
a month of treatment. 64 cents. And people ask why some people don't take insurance. It's because
wow.
we don't get paid.
I know in Wisconsin, like Medicaid doesn't reimburse medical nutrition therapy. There might be like a few circumstances, but like certainly not for any of the things I treat, which the hospital just like eats the cost and the government pays the hospital. So indirectly,
Right.
Medicaid is paying. It's just a really stupid system, but it's, crazy to me that people really want to focus on nutrition, but also don't, they want to scale back the resources we have to
You know,
fund it.
and I guess we've slowly drifted into politics, but yeah, it's crazy to me that a lot of the same people that fall for the bobbies and all that, you will see they will often be right wing voters that want to get rid of public health care, that want to get rid of all these things. Or maybe they don't necessarily want to get rid of it, but they're voting for the people that do want to get rid
Right.
of it. And I think they need
Life.
to kind of. One of my things when I'm talking about rights and stuff is, of course, I always get oh, you're just a liberal. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a conservative. I am not a political party. I don't identify as a political party. I identify as a voter. And as a voter, it is my job to look at the platforms of everybody involved, to look at what is actually going to be most beneficial, regardless of what their name is. And I think people really need to start doing that. Stop identifying as a political party, start actually looking into their political stances and their plans and stuff, regardless of what their fucking name is.
And regardless of what they're saying, like look at the policy that they're voting for, because that's
Yeah,
where we're getting into trouble right now, is people are saying one thing and then their policy is completely different.
yeah,
Agreed.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
yeah.
I know.
little clap, little
Just like
clap.
a massive overwhelm hanging over all of that, thinking about that topic. But yeah,
It is crazy because now there's bigger voices which kind of captivate more people, which kind of makes our job harder in a lot of aspects. Still haven't had anything. Like currently, that lady with the Cetos in the intake form has been the only one since 2 months ago. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that's the last one. But I will occasionally will get, especially, doing business meetings and networking. I will hear some stuff, and sometimes it's just not the best time to just like be educational. Sometimes you're just gonna be like cool and just like back away because it's not the right time. Although would like to always have like a PowerPoint presentation for every time I travel and just have a pocket,
Just have a little fold-out screen you can pull
oh
out of your pocket.
yeah,
Folds out to
like
6x5.
it's like okay, talking about Cetos. But actually, it's interesting because this semester I'm doing my thesis, and my original topic was going to be depressions and performance on CrossFit athletes because that's what I work with the most. And like 2 weeks in, I'm like, I hate my topic. I hate it so much. I don't want to do it. And then I email my professor. And I was like, hey, Dr. Jim, I hate my thesis. I'm going to change it right now. And he's like, okay. I was like, this is and I change it to like misinformation and how that affects people. So I feel more passionate about that one because it's something that, I'm battling in a daily basis. And there's not a lot of information about it as well. Like there's like now I think since 2023 there's a lot of research arising with like misinformation, and I think that's a pretty cool topic.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize, again, with the Bobbies in the world, they defend them saying they're just trying to help people, and it's like, but what is that help actually doing? What is that misinformation actually doing to them, especially in the long term?
And
Agreed.
some people really believe what they're doing, but I feel like people like that have been called out so many times with very logical, like, I mean, imagine how many times he's been stitched by people with reasonable arguments, and to not reflect on that is telling. Like, and I
Yeah,
understand people fall for misinformation, like we all do. That's
yeah,
understandable. But to stick with it for
yeah, and
years,
just ignore every
yeah.
single doctor or dietitian or anybody that's come stitch them and been like, no, actually, this, and this.
I have a genuine
It's
question. Can the company sue Bobby, the ones that are he's talking bad to? Is that a thing? Now that I
I
think
don't know
about
how
it,
that works.
I know
Like,
because like he bashes on so many like companies, like big
Yeah,
companies, who are putting the name of the company bad. Is there like a loophole that because there's like so many like big like agencies and corporations that he bashes, and then he promotes his stuff, which is getting paid. Like
I
what?
feel like, I don't know. I mean, I honestly would hope that we would all be able to continue to like support or not support products with passion without lawsuits. But you're right, there could be defamation or like, I don't know.
I see your point. Yeah, I get it. Because
I
there's
don't
a
know.
lot of companies that, especially I would say in the sports world, there's a lot of companies that will promote like electrolyte stuff, and when you see the ingredients, it's like, well, that sucks. Especially with ingredient, and I'm not going to name any of them, but there is one particular one that's pretty big, and when you see the ingredient, it's like this is not even like baby, like like dosages. Like how is this a thing, right? It still gets sold and still gets sponsored by many people.
I think the thing with Bobby getting sued would be um, he would have to make a false claim about the product, about one of their ingredients or something, that the company can like solidly present factual data that he made a false claim, which that's hard to do since a lot of the science around nutrition is still like in the space of we're still researching everything.
You
So I
know, he
don't think,
does. It's not like the products he calls out are always like health promoting. A lot of them are things that
yeah,
need to be eaten in moderation.
Moderation.
But, it's
yeah.
just like how do
Shameless
you,
plug-in.
right. It's like toxic versus not health promoting. I don't know. I'm big
Yeah.
on language. I think it's important, but
And I see when Rob said about like, oh, they're helping, like, okay, in some shape or form I could see it in terms of like you can overeat this easy, which can increase calories, blah blah blah. But I think the statement is wrong because you're completely victimizing something and then substituting for something else, which probably has the same amount of dosage and calories as the other one, and you can overeat it as well. It's just double, triple the price.
Yeah.
And then I think people
It's
actually don't give enough weight to the degree that eating disorders are like rising. And I think a lot of it is just fear about like there's what are you even supposed to eat? Everything is terrible for you.
yeah. Well, that's a lot of the comments you see on those videos is people getting frustrated. What am I even supposed to eat now?
I've gotten frustrated. Like as a dietitian, I've been
Photosynthesis.
like, I'm so overwhelmed when
Oh,
you know.
I was like that before. I would say before when I was in chiro school, I was like that. I was like obsessed with like, oh, it has to be organic. I can't eat that. You know, I got very orthorexic, and it was not helping
Mhm.
me. And it wasn't until I started the masters that I was like, oh wait, and that's almost around the same time I started seeing like Rob, Liam, Doctor Itz, Johnny, like I've like all these people. That's like, oh wait, it's just not correct. I've been not reading the research right, and there you go.
That
Um,
is, I'd say, the strength of like Rob, Liam, Doctor. It's just like calms the anxiety a little bit and helps you put your brain back on and like you're like, oh, I need to like question all of this. And I mean, I theoretically should know that, but there are also things you talk about that aren't nutrition related. They're like other chemicals and stuff where it's helpful to have a perspective that is calming.
I tell people that we're walking balls of chemical reactions, which is technically
Yeah.
true. That we're
Yeah.
just you're
Yeah.
just chemical reactions happening all the time. That's how we function. So when
You
people
look
say,
at
"Oh, it's a chemical," okay, which chemical? Oh, it just has chemicals. Like, well, everything has chemicals. What are we talking about? And usually that is enough for people to be like, "Oh, you know what?" My
just
mom
if you
is.
look cycles.
Oh yeah, my mom is. She works. She's a manager at a gym, and she sees a lot of these people, like very like heavy, like oh, seed oils and all that stuff. And it's funny because she would call me like on random days, like, "Hey, Mike, I heard this in the gym. Is this true or this is BS?" And it's like the most cutest thing because it's like my mom just asking me like, "No, mom, that's bullshit. That doesn't work." It's not like how. Tell me. It's like no, because this happens because this, and this goes here, and she goes, okay, cool. And then like 3 weeks goes by, and then some person comes in saying similar thing. She goes, no, that doesn't happen because it goes this. She's become a nutrition expert.
Oh, Mama
Yeah.
Mike.
And she's like, sometimes she's like talking with like the coaches, and the coaches would say something. She goes, no, that's not how it happens. So it's very nice to like see my mom like getting like knowing so much.
Shout out to Mama Mike.
Yeah.
She's awesome. She's the best for sure.
That's good that she retains all of it.
Oh yeah, she like randomly sent me a video like, is this BS? And I'm like, it is. But there's some good information in that BS, but it's mostly BS. And she goes, okay, cool. That's pretty. It's pretty nice. And my older sister's the same way. My older sister's just like, hey, Mike. She's very into like heavy lifting. So she's like, hey, Mike, is this real? This bullshit. I'm like, bullshit. And she's like, okay, cool. She goes away. So it's cool that it has come to that point that none of my, at least my mom, my two sisters, they don't have that eating disorder. They can enjoy the foods and add what they need, and be healthy and take care of their mental health. Like I think it makes me happy because as the son or the other brother, that's you want to see your family well, right? And
Yes.
not go into that chaos of like mental disease and everything because we've all had all my family members, like my sisters and my mom and I, we've all been through depression heavily. So it's nice and fresh to see that there's no eating disorder, with none of my two sisters and my mom. They're pretty, and they all, exercise. My mom exercises 3 4 times a week at the gym. So, my mom is pretty healthy. So that's pretty cool. Makes me
Right.
happy.
Being able to
Yeah.
be in the health space and thinking of it as fueling and, not being so dogmatic.
Oh yeah. Sometimes I get a call like, "Hey, I need to prepare this protein shake, but I need some help. Like, is there any tips you can make it tastier?" It's the I sometimes like she calls me on face like, "Hey, how do you make your overnight oats? Like, I want to do like you." It's like, okay, mom. So it's cool. It's a cool moment for sure.
It's great too because like being taking part in your family's health is so we all know that my dad's been going through stuff and um, a lot of actually I think all of his friends have died to this point. I think he's the last person alive. And part of the reason that he is still alive is contributed to me and my sisters taking active roles in his health.
Yeah, definitely
Because,
having advocates around you or just people involved supporting your health is,
Agree.
yeah,
It's very important. You know, and I think mental health is it's a big contributor to all that. I just got a text like literally like when we started the podcast. My sister's in medical school right now. She's not in clinical rotations, but she's like almost there, and she just told me, "Hey, I'm going to take a semester off. Like my mental health is like shit," and I'm like, "I'm very proud of you. Like I know how difficult that is, and if you feel like you really need it." Doesn't make you less of a person. It doesn't make you less of a future doctor. Actually makes you better, right?
it does. I think
yeah,
more people need to, I mean, that would be so hard to make that decision, and we have to change the way that like medical students and residents are
A hundred
treated. And
percent.
yeah,
A hundred
I mean,
percent.
that's why doctors aren't so like that's why they're dismissive and rough because they've been traumatized in this horrible.
I know it is pretty crazy. Like before I moved here from Puerto Rico to do the doctorate, I was burnt out because my when I was in third year of college, my dad passed away from a heart attack. So I took a lot of the mantle, family and helping out. So it took a heavy toll on me. And a 4-year degree took 6 years because obviously I took it very slow. And mentally I was not well. So I wanted to take a year off before I went to school and maybe get a job or something, some part time, whatever, just to have something. And every single person told me don't do it. Every single person told me don't do it. You're gonna go cold. You're gonna start well, all that stuff. And then I remember the sister of one of my close friends. She took a year off, and she's a psychologist. And I called her. I'm like, "You're the only person I know that has taken a year off. I need your perspective. I need your personal opinion." And she goes, "Are you like anxious? Like, ish? Are you mentally like drained heavily?" It's like you're still going through that stuff, even though it's been a couple years, right? It's like, yeah, yeah, take the whole year. Like, just take it. Like, forget about what people say. Take the whole year. And I took the year in July. Got a job at a retail store, a couple hours a week, and then I think it was in March. I was planning to go in June, and it was in March 2019 that I woke up and I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to start. Like I'm ready. And for me, the whole degree was a breeze because I was already such in a good headspace that if I would have done it a year before, I probably would have hated it. I wouldn't enjoy it at all,
right.
and I wouldn't have met my fiance. That's a big part.
Oh, there you go. It's meant to
Very,
be.
very important part. Wouldn't have met Tatiana, so that's a big, big part as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Small claps.
Lesson learned here: take your mental health time when you need it.
100%.
Yeah,
There's a quick saying, and I'll probably leave with that because I have to leave. One of my best friends, he always says he used it as an excuse to buy cosmetics at games. Not the right way to think about it, but he would always say, if you look good, you would perform good. Which technically, if you relay it to like more health stuff, you feel good, you perform better. So that's for me. That's a big advocate. If you feel better, if you feel good, you can do better, and if you do better, you
Right.
can
yeah,
actually excel what you want to excel.
Which is why 1,200 calorie diets don't work because you don't
No,
feel good.
and don't use it to buy microtransactions in games. It's not how it works either. That skin is not going to make it work better.
Okay, so where can everybody find you two?
Go ahead, Susanna.
I am on TikTok and Instagram and Threads as Susanna Richie RD.
Small clap. Me, honestly, I'm more active in Instagram in the practice, so not really mine. So like Move Forward Chiro in everything like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, that's where we're most active. I promise I'll start being active in TikTok more. I just need time. But
it does take some time.
But I am heavily active in my practice Instagram. Where we post daily there, so at least there you can for sure send a message and it's gonna be me answering. So
if you're looking for a mic certified chiropractor,
the only one the group trusts.
Well, thank you for having us
for coming on.
No, yeah, thank you for having us. It was awesome.
So before we leave, what do you hate most about Liam? Since he's not here, we can talk behind his back.
That he doesn't like.
He can get away saying he has like the friendliest disposition, so he'll say something like sassy, and he doesn't sound sassy. You're just like, oh, that was a nice video. I resent that because I cannot do that.
He just needs to eat more cottage cheese. That's all. He just needs to have ice cream cottage cheese. That's all. Mm-hmm. High protein.
Well, secretly, I'm glad we got rid of him. So everybody, don't be your worst. Put your brain back on and take some time for yourself if you need it. Small claps.
Small claps.
Hey, wasn't that a great time? Listen to the podcast. You were just, I'm assuming you were just listening to In Moderation. So if you go ahead and hit the 5-star button, is that a thing? The like button?
That's a thing.
Yeah. The like button
5
on
stars.
YouTube. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button, not the dislike button. That's a bad button. The
bad
like button. Bad
Don't touch.
Hit all the other buttons. The share. You can go check out
all those things.
Subscribe. Go check out our Patreon.
Yeah.
We do have a Patreon. It's free to join if you want, or you could give us some money. That'd be really cool, like $1 or $2. It doesn't matter. Whatever you have.
That's where you'll find all the news for this.
We're super appreciative. You can find all sorts of other stuff there. We do giveaways. I think sometimes.
Sometimes.
All that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, peace.